Horace Maynard High School the way it originally was, not what you see today, but the historic, original 1950s Horace Maynard High School. With this caveat, this was not the original Horace Maynard High School. It wasn't even on this property. It was about a half a mile farther north, and we'll get into that later. But this was not the original Horace Maynard High School like everybody thinks it was. We'll talk about that. But if you come down and you look at this school, the windows that are shaped like this and look like this, see the thicker soffit at the bottom of the window. Those are the original Horace Maynard High School windows from the 1950s. If the part of the school that you're looking at has different windows than that, it's not original. All right, let's go in. This is what you know is the entrance to Horace Maynard High School. But again, this is not the original entrance to the school. This was added later. We're going to show you the original entrance first. What you're seeing right here is the entrance of the original Horace Maynard High School on this property. If you look down this hall, this is going towards the cafeteria. You'll see right here where this wall ends, right over to that block that kind of sticks out, was the original entrance to Horace Maynard High School when it was built in 1950. Where it starts down what we call the ramp, underneath that ramp are steps. That was the original steps that went out to the grass in the front of the school that you see in the picture. The steps, believe it or not, are still under the concrete right here. They're still steps and they've just been concreted over. We'll show you that in a few moments. Now right around here, this was the original office. As you came through the front door, there were little things right here, and then you came around to the office. There's 2 or 3 offices right in here. It's now the clinic behind the library that we have modern day. But that was the original offices for the school. Okay, this is the original steps from Horace Maynard High School from 1950 that came down. These are the steel steps. These are not the steel steps I was talking about in the office segment, but these were the steel steps that students came down to go to the cafeteria to eat lunch. This over here that's being used for a classroom today was the cafeteria. This wall's been added, but this was one huge open room, and it was the cafeteria. Meals were both prepared down here and served down here, all in one room. What you're seeing here is the outside wall of the school and the original windows, which are now at ground level outside these. Now what we see over here, we're still in the original cafeteria. You see right here, there used to be a window. It's now wood, but this is the original brick that was the outside of the big square building to the south. This was a window, and this was the serving area. When kids came over here, they got their lunch here. We're going to show you in a minute where the kitchen was. But this is where kids got their lunch, and they would sit in here. Of course, all these walls have been added. This was one big room. But this is actually the outside of the original old building from here on down. And I'll show you the other side of this wall in a minute. Okay, this was the back of the kitchen area, and this is where the meals were prepared. The area that I'm standing in is where the lunch ladies handed the meals through this window to where the kids ate in there. That was the original Horace Maynard High School. If you'll spin around right here, there's been doors added and whatever. This was the original kitchen. is what you're seeing. And all this is underground, and was even back in those days. This was close to what you'd call a basement, but it's only halfway underground. Now, the steps that went out the front of the building that are concreted over are right on the back of this wall right here. And this was a set of them. There was a landing right up here, and one set came down to the basement that you see right here into the kitchen, which are these. If you'll follow me on up here. You see that retrofitting throughout the years have taken a toll on, pipes running through stuff. Come on up. And if you look right up here, the stairs go to nowhere. This corrugated metal was laid down to hold the concrete that was poured on top of it. Where we're at right now is just beside the ramp area that I showed you earlier. It's on the other side of this wall. And you can see that the steps, they just leave. Over the years, they just leave them, concrete over them, and it becomes part of the building. Now, here is an opening, and you can't see back in there, it's way too dark, and I don't have a good camera for that. But this is the original basement that was under the two-story part of the building. When the rest of the building was built, this was filled in. And half of it was what you just saw there where the kids ate. But this little part right here was filled in with rubble. And if you could see down through there, you could see it. Now they use it as a crawl space to get electricity and stuff down to, I guess the 8th grade hall would be what it's called today. All right, let's go look at some other stuff. Now the steps that we just saw, the ones that went to nowhere, this was the entrance to that stairwell. The room that we were in when I was showing you the steps is this room right here. That was what's right above us. The corrugated metal I showed you was put down to hold this floor. The steps actually went down from right here, and this is how the cafeteria workers got to their job every day. They come in the main entrance, down the steps, and start preparing lunch. If you see this gap in the floor right here, this was the original entrance to the 1950s era Horace Maynard High School. This was the area that I'm on right now was the landing. You can see that in the picture. And the steps off to the grass were right under where I'm at right now. If you follow me this way, we're getting down to this area right here. This was the original building, the two-story part of the building, and you'll see that it changes right here. This stuck out past the entrance, and you'll see brick, that's original 1950, and this block right here, they started laying these blocks in 1978 for what was to be the 8th grade hall addition. When I went to school here, this school housed 8th grade through 12th grade. I was one of the first, I was probably I think I was the first 8th grade to be in this school. Now down here is now the 8th grade hall. When I came here in the 8th grade, we were in the old end of the school. But if you look down this hall, that's the newest part of the school, as far as the main body of the school. This was built in 78 and 79, and I came over here late 79, the 79-80 school year. And we were the first class here when this was open, as well as the new cafeteria here to my left. Okay, we're in the back of the school right now. There's a little parking lot between the maintenance department and the school right out those doors. But when I went to school here in, I guess my first year here was 79, this was the ag department the year before I came here. Maybe 2 years before I came here. But that's what this was. This was one big room, and it was the ag department. They then came in and put in a dividing wall and made 2 classrooms out of it before I got here. And when I got here, this they had just turned this into the sped department. So the ag department, what you see from the 4-lane on Maynardville Highway, that part of this school was built just previous to that. So they moved the ag department and building trades from here up to that building at that time. You'll find little sections like this throughout the school, little indentions. When I went to school here, I don't know exactly when they were taken out, but there were the old style porcelain sinks that were right here that kids could wash their hands with, stuff like that. Now there's one right on up there that you can see on that side of the hall. The more shallow ones were drinking fountains. But the deeper ones, believe it or not, they had a sink there for kids to wash their hands in. Now the original 1950 Horace Maynard High School stopped right here. This was the back doors. It wasn't these doors, but this was the back doors. Now the gym went a little bit farther back, but there was no entrance. This was closed off. The public would come through there and enter the gym over there. I don't know, and I can't find when this particular section was added on. Back through here that you're seeing had to have been added on in the mid-60s. Some of you who went to school here at the time remember home ec being in that room. Miss Christopher, I think was her name, Vaudelie Needham's daughter, was in that room. So I know it was built before 79 when I got here, and it had been here for a while. So this is the addition that I really have never found any records to place when it was built. Now, right outside of that, this is the entrance I was telling you. People would come through here and go to the gym. A window was added over there, and at one time, that's where you bought your tickets to the basketball games. When you came up through here, you would park out here, and you would come up through here, get your ticket to the basketball game, or volleyball game, I guess maybe they had that back then, and you would enter through here. This is part of the original part of the schools, and the steps down to the parking lot that people parked in. Now, pulling wire in this school, and I've pulled miles of wire in this school, both working for my dad years ago and being in the technology department now. I've had many teachers, students and everything ask me what these are right here. They look like windows, but they're boarded up. And technically they are kind of windows, but they were windows into a classroom. Classroom door and then a window. What was that for? You've got to understand that they had boiler heat in the winter to warm the building. But in the summer, they didn't have air conditioning. So the teacher had an option of rolling out these windows here to the hall and opening their windows to the outside and creating airflow through the classroom. And that was all the air conditioning they had in the 50s and 60s. Okay, when I first came over here in 1979 as an 8th grader, this was our hall. This was the 8th grade hall. This is where we mainly stayed, here in the next hall back. They tried to keep us segregated from the rest of the high school. Again, this is a part of the school that just eludes me as to why it is underground. It makes no sense to me to go from this level, and this is one of the original levels of the school, down, and then if you see at the far end, it goes back up. The gym over here, the floor of the gym follows this. The only thing I can think is that when they were excavating, they tried to keep it even with the slope of the gym. I don't know, but that's what it is. Now, years ago, before I even got here, the end of the school was out there where you see the ground start to tilt back up. There is an addition out there that was added later simply to give some extra room and dressing rooms and storage rooms for the stage. Okay, this is the auditorium, probably the most famous part of the school. A lot of community events were held in here at that time. At one time, this was the biggest auditorium and the biggest seating place in the county, so they would have county stuff in here or whatever. It became something like for the community. The stage up there, these are the storage areas that were added later behind the offset walls down here. The curtains. The curtains are a pet peeve that I've had for years. When I was here in the 8th grade, and maybe before that, but that's all I can remember, we took up money, we sold candy, we sold everything in the hopes of getting new curtains. If you sell this candy, we're going to use that money to buy new curtains for the auditorium. Those are the same curtains. Those are the original curtains for this school. If you find pictures of this auditorium from the mid-50s, you will see those same curtains. We raised money to replace them. Apparently we didn't raise enough, and that's why now that this is a middle school, that still says HMHS, Horace Maynard High School. So if we build a new school, I really feel like those curtains, especially the HMHS, should be cut out and displayed prominently somewhere in the new school. When this stage was built, when this school was built in the 1950s, this stage was state of the art. You can see how dated it is down by how small it is. But these are sealed up now, but at one time these were flip up lights. You could step on them and the spring would pop them up and light the stage for the performers that were on here. These boxes that you see are not decorative. There used to be doors. And if you had to change some of the lights or if you had to do some work on the thing, you could open this up and crawl back through there under the stage and do your work. Now right here behind this curtain, you string right over here, is the last of the large windows from the auditorium. And if you go back through here, there used to be 4 of them. And you can see where part of the window is still here. They use it for heat and air now. But you can see where the blocks don't match. The windows used to long window, and these up here were just a little bit shorter, but you can see where they used to be. And I'll show you why they did this in just a moment. Okay, in the back of the school, notice the difference in the floor here. This floor is a little bit down from that floor. It's a little bit of a step down here, not much. It's really imperceptible. But this area was added in the late 1960s. They added on 2 classrooms and an office on the back of the gym. Now, if you'll remember when we were in the auditorium, I showed you the windows. This is the other side of those windows. In the 1950 incarnation of this school, this was the back of the school. These bricks were the back of the original 1950s Horace Maynard High School. These were the windows to the auditorium. And when they added this to keep kids from just walking over here and looking into the auditorium, they blocked off the windows. Now the part of the window that's not blocked off is above the ceiling here for the heat and air units that are up on the roof of this building. But these were the original windows. If you find any pictures of this school, these are the original back windows of the auditorium of the original school. Now right here briefly, this is what's left of one of the, well, it's probably the last window, original window into the auditorium. Remember that curtain in there we saw from the inside? This is the outside of it and what's left of it. I'm going to show you something that most people don't get to see. Don't know if they'll let me put this in the video or not. And if they don't, I'll just save this for myself. 99% of people that went to school here, or even citizens of Union County, know this exists. This is the basement. This is the true basement. Not the basement you hear where they put classrooms in. That's the good part. This is the original basement under the original 1950s era Horace Maynard High School. It's sealed up now. They tried to use it for years as storage, but it got too bad even for that. So it's totally locked up right now, but this is a huge room that runs towards the courthouse underneath the main part of the school. And years ago, I brought my daughter down here to show it to her, and I convinced her that this is the original jail for the county. And she went out and told all of her friends. I got called into the director's office for that, but it was funny. Most people don't know that's here. These are the steps to the original Horace Maynard High School. It's set right here where the playground is to Maynardville Elementary School today. These were the steps that led to a sidewalk to the beginning of the school, the entrance of the school. If you see some pictures of the old original school, this monument stood in front of it. On either side of the monument were small trees. And if we walk around back here, I'm going to show you something that's interesting. And the only thing left of the true first Horace Maynard High School, that tree. That tree has been here for, this is going to be its 101st year that we know of. That tree come from Judge Monroe's place at the request of the school board. When they dedicated this school in 1923, everyone at the dedication was asked to dig up a tree from their farm and bring it down here and plant it to beautify the grounds. Judge Monroe brought 2 of these trees. It was this one, and there used to be another one over there where the first block building is, and in the 1980s it was cut down. This is the last remaining tree that was donated for the original Horace Maynard High School. It really needs to be commemorated, in my opinion. But this was where Horace Maynard High School was. At that time, originally, it was called Horace Maynard School. In 1923, they built this school, and it wasn't a little one-room school. It had a 600-seat auditorium. It had first grade through 12th grade. The first grade through 8th grade had a principal, and then the high school, which was on that end of the building, had its own principal. So there were technically 2 different schools operating in one building. It was supposed to last for 50 years. It lasted for 27 until it became overcrowded.
1923 was a time of upheaval in the world. With the surprise death of President Warren G. Harding in America and the arrest of an unknown Adolf Hitler for insurrection in Germany, the world was changing. The same was true for the small hamlet of Union County, Tennessee, the county seat recently renamed from Liberty to honor its benefactor, Congressman and lawyer Horace Maynard. The seat city of Union County, Tennessee, was getting its first major school, equipped with a 600-student auditorium. The school would occupy 30 acres near what is now 635 Main Street, just south of the courthouse. The land was purchased from T.H. and Ollie Kitts, who had owned the land for years. Known simply as Horace Maynard School, it would house up to 500 children ranging from 1st grade to 12th. Dedicated on December 12, 1923, during a 7-inch snowfall, the ceremony was officiated by James Maynard of Knoxville, Tennessee, the son of Horace Maynard and owner of Knoxville's Brookside Mills. Invocation was given by the Reverend J.M. Mellier of Athens, while speeches were given by Professor B.O. Duggan and Dr. J. Thaxton of the University of Tennessee. Also in attendance and accepting the new school on behalf of Union County was County School Superintendent W. H. Thomas. The expected enrollment for the year would be 50 students for the high school, while the elementary wing would be home to an estimated 200 students. Situated on a small hill facing the Knoxville-Tazewell Pike, this school was expected to satisfy the county needs for 50 years. Unfortunately, it would only last 27. The elementary school at the new Horace Maynard School would be officiated by Professor Clay Patrick and his assistants, Miss Etta Davis and Miss Bloma Stanley. W.F. Weir of Rhea County was hired to be principal of the high school wing. Weir moved to our area from Dayton and would rent the Captain John Sharp home for his residence while here. While most people were very grateful for the new school, two groups opposed it. One group opposed the closing of several one-room schools in favor of this larger centralized school. Others opposed the 2-cent property tax levy imposed by the county court to pay for it. After the extensive dedication ceremony, Reverend Mellier gave a lengthy sermon from the Bible text, "Be thou strong, therefore, and show thyself a man." After the sermon, W.F. Weir gave a presentation, during which he presented County Court Chairman Paris Walker with a portrait of Horace Maynard, painted by Lloyd Branson, to be hung in the school auditorium. Next to speak was James Maynard, the son of Horace Maynard, for which the school was named. A lengthy oration was given regarding the life and times of Horace Maynard and what he had done for Union County. In his life, he walked to the area from Westbury, Massachusetts in 1838 to become a member of the faculty of East Tennessee College, later to be renamed the University of Tennessee. He spoke of his political career in Washington, those his father represented as a lawyer, and even his time as Minister of the United States to Turkey. At the end of his speech about his father, James presented the school with the Horace Maynard Family Bible to reside in the school as long as it carried his name. Next, he gave the school an engraving of Abraham Lincoln and a note that read, "The Abraham Lincoln Patriot League, Knoxville, Tennessee, December 15, 1923. Dear Mr. Maynard, the Lincoln engraving you carry to Maynardville is undoubtedly the last of its kind to be had. This league at my expense has placed one of these in many East Tennessee schools as well as schools in other states." The letter was signed C.W. Lester. The school was officially opened on August 12, 1924. After a brief opening ceremony, an appeal was made to the residents. Those in attendance were asked to donate a sapling tree dug from their farms to decorate the grounds. The only tree left from these donations to still exist is a large tree that resides on what is now Maynardville Elementary's playground. This tree and a matching one was dug from the farm of Judge Monroe just north of the school. The sister tree was removed in the mid-1980s. The first graduating class from the new school was addressed by James Maynard on April 26, 1925. The graduating class consisted of the following students: Miss Bonnie Palmer, Miss Maddie Palmer, Miss Sally Palmer, C. Donahue, Harmon Monroe, and Kate Stooksbury. Maddie Palmer was the valedictorian. This school, while expected to last 50 years, soon, in 27 years, had shown itself to be dated with coal stoves for heat, a well for water, and not enough indoor toilets. In 1949, County Court would vote to leave it as an elementary school and build a new high school just south. The new school would become what we know as Horace Maynard High School in 1950. In June of 1949, the following ad would be placed in Knoxville papers. Sealed proposals for the construction of Horace Maynard High School at Maynardville, Union County, Tennessee, will be received by the Board of Education of Union County at the office of Mr. J. Howard Collette, Superintendent of Schools, on or before 2 p.m. Eastern Time, July 12, 1949, at which time and place they will be publicly opened and read. Copies of the drawing and specifications may be obtained from the office of Bauman & Bauman, 8131 Market Street, Knoxville, Tennessee. A charge or deposit of $50 will be required of eligible bidders for procurement of plans and specifications and is payable to Bauman & Bauman. This deposit will be refunded to all except the successful bidder, tending an appropriate bid. Upon the return of plans and specifications in good condition to the office of the architect, drawings and specifications shall be furnished to others than eligible bidders at the cost of production and must be returned to the office of the architect at the close of bidding. Each bid must be accompanied by a surety bond or bidder's bond executed by the bidder and a surety company licensed to do business in Tennessee in the amount of 5% of the amount of the base bid. The bond is required as a guarantee that if the bid is accepted, the contract will be entered into within 10 consecutive calendar days after written notice is given of the award of the contract and the performance of it properly secured. The successful bidder will be required to execute a performance bond covering and including labor and materials in the amount of 5% of the contract price. All bidders must be licensed contractors as required by Chapter 135 of the Public Acts of 1945 of the General Assembly of the State of Tennessee, Section Number 1. No bidder may withdraw his bid for a period of 30 days after the date for the opening of bids on this work. The owner reserves the right to reject any and all bids and to waive any informalities therein. Any bid received after the scheduled time for receiving bids will be returned unopened to the bidder. The winning bidder was Emery and Richards Contractors at $475,000. The school was built completely using state sales tax, and no property tax increase was imposed for the project. Overseeing the building of the school would be J. Howard Collette, the superintendent of schools, and Cecil Butcher, business owner and local banker, and also chairman of the school board. Serving on the school board was M.G. Graves, Luna Keck, Stuart Snodderly, Bruce Rutherford, B.L. Johnson, and P.V. Schaffner. Serving on the county commission was Roy Owsley, C.C. Seymour, Thurman Hill, Dr. R.S. Monroe, Walter Hunley, Estelle Campbell, Ralph Gilbert, Curtis Kitts, Earl Branham, Louis Brewer, Curtis Steiner, Roy Cole, and Jim Edwards. The building of the school in 1 year was orchestrated by Baumann and Baumann Architects. Baumann was best known for their designs of several hospitals throughout Tennessee, including the original University of Tennessee Hospital and Eastern State Mental Hospital. The construction was done by Emery and Richards General Contractors. The firm had just finished remodeling the Minot building on Gay Street, recently losing a bid for construction of East High School in Knoxville. This fell at a good time for the company. Mid-August of 1950, the new Horace Maynard High School officially opened, a 2-story brick building with lunchroom in the basement. The original faculty was Principal Claude Weaver, Mrs. Jessie Buckner, Mrs. Ink Cobble, Mrs. June Campbell, Mrs. Dana Latham, Miss Frances Bollinger, Mrs. Winnie McDonald, Mrs. Rama Seymour C. Donahue, Harold Edmondson, Lynn Malone, C.R. Loy, Robert Carter, Mrs. Ray Winters, J.L. Myers, attendance officer, and Hollis Johnson, maintenance superintendent. This school would serve the county for more than 70 years until the 1990s era increases in population throughout the area. At this time, a new Union County High School was constructed. A $475,000 price tag for Horace Maynard School in 1950 became tens of millions of dollars to replace it with Union County High School. Shortly thereafter, a wheel tax would be imposed for the building of Paulette Elementary, one of the original one-room schools that Horace Maynard closed. A significant increase would be seen 30 years after building Union County High to replace Horace Maynard, now a middle school. However, the cost would be offset by an unprecedented donation of millions of dollars by the local school system. Tennessee state law requires the building of schools by the county governing body. However, noticing the pending need for a new school, then Director of Schools James Carter began saving money to offset the cost with school funds, saving the county taxpayers millions of dollars. Dr. Carter would resign just before the plan came to fruition. But the plan he championed was carried on by the newly hired director Greg Clay with increased vigor. As we sit on the eve of what will be the largest building project in county history, an almost all-new school board, including the former director of schools and newly elected board member James Carter, along with director Greg Clay, the county seems to be in good hands. As we watch this series of videos over the next 2 years, keep in mind those in charge are Greg Clay, director of schools, and school board Rebecca Locke, Danny Wayne Collins, Charlie Hamilton, Harold Cook, Terry Washam, James Carter, and Jessica Buck. Join us in the endeavor of building a school on video, along with an unprecedented amount of transparency for the taxpayers of Union County who have sacrificed so much for the kids of our area.